record on this computer. Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ellie, and I'm an acupuncturist, Chinese medicine practitioner, and beauty therapist for around 12 years. And so my passion is basically in holistic health, aging, women's health, chronic disease, and stress management. And today I'm really excited to have Louise. Louise Hallinan, she is a naturopath, an award-winning, international award-winning author, a natural medicine practitioner, and the founder of Smart Brain Health Center. So she specializes in the prevention and treatment of memory problems and improving brain health for people over 40 years and above. And she works with a lot of baby boomers, Generation X mothers to basically avoid the risk of dementia and Alzheimer's. And this is a great passion and topic of mine because I think it's all about healthy aging. And when a part of the aging is basically preserving our brain health and making sure we've got that great cognitive function up into our older years. So welcome, Louise. How are you today?
Thank you, Ellie. Well, thank you. Lovely to be on your show.
Yes. So I just wanted to ask a few questions. So basically, why the passion in brain health, and what made you interested in this particular topic?
Yeah, this area, my passion is because of, I can blame my mother for this. She had Alzheimer's disease for many years, and the doctor told me it was hereditary. And he also told me that I had a good chance of getting it myself, which I was absolutely shocked. And I thought, no, this can't be true. I've got to find out for myself. Surely there's got to be something I can do to prevent it or avoid it from happening to me when I get older. So that's just set me off on a I guess a journey to find out everything I could about Alzheimer's disease, because there's no way I wanted to experience what my mother was going through. So that just set me off, and really it is a passion because I can't really think of anything else my entire life than working on this. Yeah.
Now, do you find it is a real problem in our society today, like with everything that's going on? Is it a real prevalence at the moment in society?
It certainly is. Like before, Alzheimer's disease / dementia used to be for people that were quite old, elderly would actually normally be getting Alzheimer's disease or dementia. But the problem is now is there's over 24,000 people in Australia that are now being diagnosed with younger onset dementia. That's dementia that's 65 years and younger. Some is in their 30s and 40s. It's way too young for people's lives to be ruined by having dementia. And this shouldn't be happening. I've just been watching the increase, and I've also been watching that there's nothing really in the prevention that's being done to help especially these younger onset dementia patients.
So why do you think that is? Why do you think the onset is so young? Because when you think of dementia and Alzheimer's, it should be happening to people in their 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s. Why is it that it is happening in the younger generation these days?
Yeah, well, I believe that a lot of it could be misdiagnosis. Some of it could be that they're not actually looking at the causes. And I think some of them might be being diagnosed too hastily, because memory problems can actually look like dementia, but not actually be dementia. Like really, they cannot finally give a diagnosis of dementia unless they've actually, once they've passed away, and they do an autopsy on the brain. That's the only definitive diagnosis is actually when they've passed away. But until that time, there could be lots of things that could be done. There could be problems with their memory, but they may be able to find out what is causing that. And that's an area that's not being looked at. I believe there's a lot that can be done that isn't being done by looking at the causes.
So what would you say would be the main causes of what's happening early on, and what can we do as a prevention? You know, obviously we talk about the cause, but we want to take a step back and what we can do to prevent it so that we're not getting there. Because if
Exactly.
it is being misdiagnosed, you know, what are some of the areas that we can look at so we can, you know, start early in life and start doing some of these preventative techniques,
Yeah,
Eloise?
yeah. Yeah, so look, some of the areas I'm talking about that are either there's two different areas. There's the medical causes of memory problems, and there's the lifestyle causes of memory problems. So, for example, people's diets, right? There's the increase in um, fast foods and packaged foods. Are big culprits. They are to blame for a lot of people's memories not being as sharp as it should be. Because of some of the additives, they've got like aspartame, which is an artificial sweetener. They've got fructose and they've got MSG. Those three alone are doing an enormous amount of damage to people's brains. And that's just looking at the diet and nothing else. There's health conditions. People who have got heart disease or they're on medications. Some of the medications have got side effects of short-term memory loss. And one of the biggest selling medications are statins.
Yeah.
And statins are prescribed for people who are actually on heart medication, and the doctors prescribe statins as well as the heart medication to prevent them, you know, from having their heart disease or the build-up of cholesterol, because that's what statins are supposed to block the production of cholesterol. So what happens is that the statins themselves cause short-term memory loss. And what they're not really addressing is that statins are like Lipitor. They're the biggest selling medication in Australia and America. I've had clients that have been on medications like Lipitor, and their cholesterol levels are actually either medium to low, and they're still taking the Lipitor statins medications. You know, it's actually more dangerous to have really low cholesterol than normal.
Yeah.
So once these people that went off their Lipitor medications, the statins, their short-term memory loss improved. So I believe there's a lot of people that are just taking the medications, these statins, and have got the side effects of short-term memory loss. This is just one of many things that people can actually look at if they're experiencing memory problems.
And it is like, yeah, that's true. I see a lot of people overprescribe with statins, and cholesterol or high cholesterol is something that can be well managed with good food and nutrition, you know, and yeah, that's quite important because people don't realize that, you know, instead of going to a medication that is lowering your cholesterol, you know, how about trying to adapt a healthy lifestyle? And it is quite an easily, you know, sort of a chronic illness that can be looked after with great nutrition and lifestyle. So what would you say would be some foods? Yeah, so packaged foods are definitely, you know, too many people eat processed foods way too much. I see that as well. So what do you think we can eat, you know, instead of, what would you suggest people eat in terms of healthy food and nutrition, you know, to basically have a healthy brain?
Well, for starters, if they're going to the supermarket, just shop around the outside edges, get your fruit and vegetables. It's the meat, chicken, just the basics. It's the healthiest foods are the foods that actually are grown normally, not the ones that are in packages. And if people must buy packaged foods, have a look at the ingredients on the side of the packet. Now, you know, 621, that's the monosodium glutamate. They don't write it on the side of the pack. Usually you'll just find a number. A lot of the kids' chips, for example, Smith's chips. Kids have for morning tea, afternoon tea, whatever, a snack, maybe once or twice a day. That's got MSG in it, you know, and it's a wonder why little children are having attention problems or a bit hyperactive. and they're being diagnosed with ADHD or whatever, when it's actually some of the ingredients in packaged foods like the chips that are causing it. So, yeah, so if you can avoid, to answer your question, to avoid packaged foods, or at least if you do buy them, have a look. Look out for fructose, look out for MSG, which is a 621, and look out for aspartame, 951. Those free ingredients are nearly, they're increasing. I think you'll find those free ingredients in nearly every single packaged foods now.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yeah. I mean, that's what you go to a supermarket and you just look at people's trolleys, and it's so interesting to see most people are just full of packaged foods, you know, there's not, you know, much fruit or vegetables or good produce or good protein in any of their foods. It's just full of cereals and, you know, all the sort of Uncle Toby's crap that you get for the kids. And these are kids in their primary school years. So you're saying it starts as early as, you know, primary school, the damage that's getting done.
Yeah, and this, if they actually looked at the food that they're selling, I mean, I believe that if they had good food in the supermarkets, we wouldn't have so many kids with learning problems and behaviour disorders and stuff. That's just starting for children, let alone adults. The adults' memories will be a lot sharper and clearer if they weren't having, you know, all the sugar-free drinks like, you know, Coke Zero. And
that's terrible.
Yeah. And people think, this the other thing is people that are diabetic, they think they're doing the right thing by getting these artificially sweetened diet drinks, but they're actually making things worse. You know, they probably would be better off just getting, if they have to buy it, they just get the sugar one rather than the aspartame. Of course, that can cause brain damage for sure over the long period.
Yeah, brain damage and a whole host of other chronic illnesses, you know, autoimmune issues and allergies. But yeah, it's a big thing, the diet Coke industry, and people think that they're actually, you know, it's actually healthier for them, and it's actually not.
It's marketed that way to make them think that they're actually going to be healthier, which is a shame. Yeah, because they're actually getting sicker. Yeah. But, so the food manufacturing, that's one whole huge area where people can really take their health into their own hands, their brain health. I think everyone has always been too busy. Everyone's got, you know, children or grandchildren to care for and shop for and working, etc. And so this is really convenient food. You know, we just quickly pick at the supermarket, pick up a few of their favourite snacks or whatever, and you know, bypass the fruit and veggies, and maybe go back there next week or whatever. And yeah, if they look through the pantry, have a look at what they've got, look at the sides of the packets, and really, if they've got 621, 951, or fructose, they really should either get their money back if they haven't used it, or throw it out. Of course, it's damaging.
Yeah, I tell my clients anything that's got numbers in it, it's sorry, it's gone a bit funny.
You just froze.
It's all right, we're back, I think. Hello. Yeah. No, basically, I just say to patients, look, if you see anything with numbers on the back, you know, that's obviously not real food. You should be eating real food. So what other things can we eat apart from non-packaged stuff, like in terms of vegetables? Any particular things? Because you talked about the brain connection. How about you know, the gut brain connection? That's a big area these days that they're mentioning in terms of, you know, gut health and brain health. Can you talk a bit about that, Louise?
Yeah. Look, the latest research, well, I guess they've always known, but they're actually proving it now, that the brain is connected to the gut and vice versa. And you can tell yourself when when you're nervous about things. It's got even nothing to do with food even. You feel possibly your body giving signs of you're feeling unease in the stomach, or, you know, you might feel tightness in the neck, etc. Well, it's the same thing with the foods too. If we eat the right foods, then that's actually helping with the good bacteria in our gut. if we've got inflammation in our gut, we've got also inflammation in our brain. And foods that cause inflammation is the sugar. Sugar is huge, and also gluten, etc. So yeah, but the connection is that they've found that the gut flora, the gut microbiome. Also, we've got more bacteria in our gut than they say we have cells in our body, and it's just a matter of eating the right foods that the good bacteria like, as well as taking the probiotics and prebiotics. A bit of plenty of fibre is food, etc. Fermented foods is really good for our gut, and that really helps with our brain health as well. They're connected. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Most people have to look after our gut, and everything starts with the food we eat. That affects our health in so many aspects, our brain health, our gut health, just general health and well-being.
Everything starts in the gut, everything. Even though like you would find yourself, there's so many things that are far, you wouldn't think are related at all to the gut, but it all comes back to the gut. It's just so important, and we're just realizing how important it is now, especially when it comes to the brain. Who would have ever thought?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, who thinks if you want to treat your brain, you've got to treat your gut first?
Exactly, yeah, because I think it's that vagus nerve that just goes from the brainstem to your gut. It sends the messages all the way along. Whenever you need it, it actually helps with producing hormones and the neurotransmitters and everything like that. It's so important to have a healthy gut and a good bacteria.
Yeah. So in your book, which I've had the pleasure of reading, we talk about the 5 steps of prevention. Can you quickly just run through those in sort of a little bit of detail? So we talked about a bit about prevention. So what are the sort of 5 steps that you talk about in your book in terms of prevention for having a healthy brain?
Yeah, sure. Look, when I did my research, I wanted to find out what were the causes of memory problems, because memory problems was one of the very first symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. So then I wanted to find what was causing these memory problems. And I found so many different causes that I put them into 2 different categories, is medical causes and lifestyle causes. So the first step in my book is to identify the causes. Are they medical causes of memory problems, or are they lifestyle causes of memory problems? So that first chapter and first step is all about identifying which causes are causing, having a look at it for yourself. For example, we talked about food, etc. Another area which actually is in the very first chapter, and probably what got me started, was because of my mother, how she got diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia. So what happened? She was quite a healthy woman, but she had a fall and broke a hip. She was in her 70s, and so she had to have a hip operation. When we saw her after the operation, she seemed okay. She smiled at my dad, but she didn't recognise me. So I was shocked, and I asked the doctor what's going on, and he said, "Oh, it's just the anaesthetics. When they wear off, your mum will be back to her normal self." So we thought, okay, that's fine. We'll wait. We waited days, we waited weeks, we waited months. And mum never came back to her usual normal self ever after that. So the anaesthetics definitely had an effect on my mother. Then 1 year later, she had another fall and broke the other hip. So then she had to have another operation. Also, we asked the doctors, please don't use whatever anaesthetics you used before, because of what happened, how bad mum was. And they didn't obviously do that, because when the operation was over and mum came out, she couldn't even come home. She was that bad. She just had to go straight into a nursing home. It was really, really bad. So I wanted to find out, what's going on here. I found out that it's nitrous oxide that a lot of people have hip operations or knee operations, And I believe they're still using it, possibly not on its own, but in conjunction with other anaesthetics in operations. Yes, so that's drifting away a bit from your question, but that's an example of medical causes in my book. And lifestyle causes, well, there's stress, there's the food. So it goes into a fair bit of detail about each type of those causes. So that's the first step. Second step is that the second step is actually identifying these foods. I'm going into more detail then of fructose and all these artificial flavourings and colourings and the ingredients in packaged food. So to look in your pantry, to look at all that. So that's step 2 is avoid these foods. Not a lot of people know what foods to eat, but they don't know what foods to avoid. That's why I wrote that one. That's the second step. Step 3 is testing. It's most important, I've found through my research, to have particular blood tests for especially vitamin B12, folic acid, and an amino acid called homocysteine. Those 3 in particular can give me a clue as to if there may be a vitamin B12 deficiency in that person. So that people can actually get these blood tests done with their doctor. And I think that's a really good thing to have done because some of the symptoms of a vitamin B12 deficiency look almost identical to early stages of dementia, Alzheimer's. And if it's a B12 deficiency, it can easily be fixed. Not
Yeah.
dementia.
Yeah, no, that is very common because B12 is there. We see that a lot. And if they don't get tested, they don't know. And it affects what, about 30% of the population?
It's a high percentage. So that's something that I really, people really are struggling with their memory. That's one of the first things I say. Go to the doctor and have those 3 blood tests done. And then we can have a look and see what the levels are. Because I've found many cases of people with a vitamin B12 deficiency. And if they're low, it can actually solve their memory problem, and they can get back. If you find out that they've got a vitamin B12 deficiency, there's it can affect the neurological system. They can have the pins and needles in their fingers and toes, etc. There's lots of different symptoms that you wouldn't even think of probably even worth mentioning to the doctor. But if you find out what some of the symptoms of a B12 deficiency are, you'd be surprised. Dizziness.
And it's as easy as just taking a B12 supplement, isn't it? I mean, and that can already help with a few symptoms there already.
Yeah, exactly. It can be easily fixed. That's why it's so important before any diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, please rule out a vitamin B12 deficiency, because otherwise it's like such a waste, that person just goes down the wrong road, when there's something that can be done. Yeah. So blood tests, that's the step 3 testing. And I also do nutritional screening to find out any vitamin and mineral deficiencies, hormonal imbalances, any food intolerances, etc. We do a lot of that type of testing in my clinic. So that's the step 3. Step 4 is prevention. So then that's when we look at all the good news, all the foods that are examples of antioxidants which can actually fight inflammation. The vitamins A, C, and E are good antioxidants, etc. So it goes into the prevention of things you can take yourself, the diet-wise through good food, and also through different supplements that are beneficial. And also look at see with memory problems, anxiety and depression, also like symptoms of memory problems. And we look at if the person has memory problems due to anxiety or depression, we can look at helping them with homeopathic remedies, because homeopathic medicine is the only natural medicine that can help with mental and emotional health problems. because the only other option people with they have depression is antidepressants, medications, and they all got side effects. So I found that homeopathic medicine can help with depression and anxiety. So that is also in the prevention side, and also brain training. We can do a lot. Our brain is plastic. There's a lot we can do. We can have a better brain now than when we were younger if we just applied to do some brain training on. It's easy to do on the laptop. And so doing those things, eating the right foods, taking supplements, doing brain training, and looking at your mental and emotional side of your health. There's a lot that can be done in the prevention side. And then the last step is lifestyle, where people can actually, it's a lifestyle that if they're not doing it now, it's something that is easy to do, to implement. They've just got to think about their health. And the first one is getting some exercise, either if it's going for a walk every morning or every afternoon, or going to the gym, or just lifting some weights. So any type of physical activity, that's number one. And there's so many studies out now proving that exercise is so beneficial, even if you have a terrible diet. I shouldn't say that, but that's how good physical exercise is for the brain. Also to combat stress, which stress is I believe one of the biggest causes of memory problems, because nearly everyone is got stress in their lives. So we must be able to manage our stress, and that's through like meditation, doing yoga, things like that, and also socializing, which we haven't been able to do in the last 3 or 4 months or something. It's terrible, and that really affects our mental stability and our brain health as well. We've got to be able to be social again. Something that people could easily do before I wrote my book, etc. And now with this happening with the COVID, it's been really hard for a lot of people to be able to get out and socialise. And that's really important with the brain health. So that's a lifestyle thing as well. Yeah. So it's really exercise, socialising, and doing stress management, meditation, yoga. And these things you can integrate into your daily health, and every single one of them have got studies proving it's so good for your brain health.
And these days, more than ever, I think, you mentioned with the stress and anxiety, it's at an all-time high, with what's been going on, the uncertainty of the world that's causing, people to be stressed, to be anxious, to be depressed. And so you think that would greatly affect people's brain health if they're not taking care of themselves in this time, would you say?
Yeah. And of course, people aren't eating well, and they're not getting exercise. So it all goes hand in hand. They can't socialise because they can't get out. Right, so then they can actually go for a walk, but it's not like it used to be. Say, for example, they've still got, they can't get on with their life how they used to at the moment. We're hoping that will all start to change. So definitely socialising is a very big part of improving your brain health. Getting out.
Yeah, we're not socializing enough. So when they call about social distancing, I think that's probably not a great term. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that were saying on the news the last couple of days, news is not great, but they have mentioned that there's a lot of people who are suffering from Alzheimer's dementia who are feeling very alone. So what can we do to try, if we know people, what can we do to try to reach out and help them in that way?
It's a terrible situation right now for those who are in nursing homes. It's really bad because there's a lot of people in nursing homes that don't get visitors very often anyway. A lot of people don't visit their relatives very often, some of them, because when people have got dementia, a lot of them think that, well, they don't even know I'm here, so what's the point? But that's really a wrong outlook, because they actually are aware that you're there. They just can't verbalise it or tell you, but they know, and they can't understand. It's extremely bad for these people because they don't know what's going on in the outside world. Why aren't I having my family coming to see me? And they just their health is just going to deteriorate, because when you're happy, everything just falls apart. And if they're eating really bad food and not getting any fresh air out there, not seeing their family, they are really suffering, and not surprised that they are dying, because they're bringing on an early death because they can't see their family. That's their life,
Yeah.
And it's really wrong. And I think what's wrong also is actually forcing family to have the flu vaccination because, the family they wouldn't put their own mother or father at risk. They've been isolated all this time, and their mother and father or auntie or uncle have been isolated all this time, and there's no way that they could, carry any germs to them. And so it's just putting more pressure on the family to go and get vaccinated. And I think I read somewhere that even though that the family have been vaccinated and they're finally let in to see their loved ones, that they're still sitting them at a distance and they can't really even touch each other.
Yeah, the social distancing. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we need the happy hormones. When we're actually hugging, it actually releases oxytocin. When we're in that sort of, like when we do have that physical touch, that's when we are feeling a lot better within ourselves. And people are just feeling so alone these days.
It's terrible.
It's very sad.
It's the worst. It's the worst, and I think they affected the worst more than anybody else with all this now. Yeah, it's terrible.
So hopefully, we can sort of go back to a bit of normality and we can really, reach out to family and friends, because this is such an important time, because people are just so depressed, so stressed. They haven't got any job income, a lot of them. They're not making ends meet. It's going to be very tough on their health in the next couple of years to come.
Yeah, there's so many different angles that it's affecting. Elderly is just one area. What about what you just mentioned? Yeah, people's jobs, the economy, so many things. Yeah. So hopefully we'll all get back to normality soon. I'm sure we will, because it is possible. People look after their health. They're taking their vitamin C.
Yes.
Looking after their immune system and eating good food rather than packaged food. Then I think that will definitely help to keep their immune system really nice and strong, so they won't get any of this virus.
Yeah, exactly. Prevention it's all about the prevention, isn't it? Not about the cure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing, Louise. It's been great chatting with you. How can we get a copy of your amazing book, Smart Brain, Healthy Brain? I think we can go to your website.
Yes. You can go to my website.
Louise Hallinan, HALLINAN.com.au.
And you can get it. You can also get it on my Smart Brain Health Centre website. Yep. That's probably the quickest way, is smartbrainhealthcentre.com.au. All one word, and that's where you can find it there as well.
Okay, amazing, Louise. Thank you so much for all your great tips. And there's more information in her book. So yeah, it's an amazing book. There's so much good information out there. And it is the key, because you did mention that Alzheimer's and dementia, the number one killer now, isn't it?
It is. It's the number one killer for women in Australia. And it's the number 2 cause of death in the whole of Australia. The number 2. So it's getting up there, and there's not enough good news about it. People don't know that they can actually do anything about it. They think that they're getting a their memory is failing for whatever reason, and they don't really even know that. They just take it for granted, or that they don't even ask, why am I having these problems? And if they do, the doctor would just normally say, well, we don't know, but they're not looking hard enough. And I think that if anyone, a message here is, if anyone's experiencing memory problems and they're aware of it, please do something about it while you're aware. Don't ignore it or dismiss it. A lot of people will, thinking that nothing can be done, but there's a lot that can be done. There really is. You just don't know about it.
Or even if you see your parents or some of your elderly relatives deteriorating, take that step and get them checked out.
Get them checked out, exactly. And I would say, when you go to the GP, ask if you can get these blood tests done. Make sure, get the vitamin B12, the homocysteine and the folic acid, get those free blood tests done. And that's the first step, because that could be the reason. Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, Louise, so much for all those amazing tips. And we're hopefully going to get the word out there, and it's all about the prevention.
It is. It's all about prevention. We can reduce those numbers of people being diagnosed, especially the ones under 65. You know, we've got to do something. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty sad-looking world in the future. We're all walking around with dementia. Yeah, it can't happen.
No, we don't want that. We want to live.
Lots. We can do lots.
Yeah, we want to live a long, healthy life, and our brains are still intact like a 20-year-old.
Exactly. We can get better.
Great. That's great news, Louise. Okay, thank you so much for your time. We hope you enjoyed all that great information. And yeah, thanks, Louise, for all your wise wisdom.
Thank you, Ellie, for having me on your show. It's lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.